Welcome everyone here in the sanctuary and those out in Zoom land. We're going to mute you now and we will unmute you after the service ends. I'm Jim Moore. I am part of your Sunday, November 26th, 2023 service team. I looked at that and thought, that doesn't look right, but it's actually right. Okay. Now we have a few announcements. Early Birds continues to meet on Sunday mornings at 9:30, and we do it via Zoom, or you can come join us in the sanctuary or over in the social hall. The link is in the weekly email and on the website. Upcoming speakers today, of course, we have Peggy Shinn. Welcome back. It's been a while. Next week, December 5th, Donna Stryker will be our speaker, followed by Reverend Sandy on the 10th, Reverend Kamatara on the 17th, Dr. Edward on the 24th, and Peggy again on the 31st. Wow. Our Thursday evening group meets every week at 7 p.m. We're continuing with the Greg Braden series called Missing Links. There's only 2 videos left, and we have chosen the next series to be Teresa Bullard, PhD. It's called Mystery Teachings. Teresa deftly interweaves complex concepts from ancient mystery teachings and quantum physics to bring us real-world ways in which we can deepen our spiritual connections and manifest a fulfilled life. So that sounds pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. We have an upcoming concert. The Mesilla Valley Chorale will present its holiday concert, Swinging Through the Holidays, this coming Sunday, December 3rd at 3 p.m. at the Rio Grande Theater in downtown Las Cruces. You may purchase tickets from the door or get some from our own Judy Bethman. Our December get-together is Saturday, December 9th from 10 to 12. It's the Downtown's Blues Cafe, and some of us are going to listen to music and then maybe have lunch at Mateo's restaurant. I just realized when reading this that I'm going to be showing my pottery at 925 Mesquite at that gallery out in the outdoors that morning so y'all can come by and see me while you're out.
What time do you start?
I think 10.
At 10.
Yeah. 925 Gallery. It's 925 Mesquite Street.
I can put that in the announcement somewhere on that page.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. Lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request via our webpage or give it to Edward. Our prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know that we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. Now it's time for our invocation. We invoke Spirit to be with us in this place, while knowing that Spirit is everywhere present in our lives and in the lives of everyone else as well. Today is a beautiful day, and I am grateful for life today. Grateful for each one of us, both here in the sanctuary and those online. Let's take this awareness of Spirit's presence with us throughout the week. And so it is. Now we're going to sing our Song of Joy. This is My Perfect World. Stand if you like. Thank you. You may be seated if you like. And read with me our vision, our mission, and our affirmation. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through counsel, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. And our affirmation: this month, I turn my thoughts to gratitude. I know that my highest and best is expressing through every activity and experience in my life. For this, I am grateful, and so it is. Now it's time for special music from Danica.
So this song, it's called Morning by Morning by Pat Barrett. I picked it because I've never felt closer to God than I do in this moment of my life right now. And I feel that because I've found Wellspring, because my grandma brought me here. And I have her to be grateful for bringing me into this wonderful community and showing me, that God lives within all of us every day, all the time. Daily, daily I surrender. Great grace for today is all that I need. Surprised by your mercy that's new every morning. Awaken my soul to sing. Awaken my soul to sing. I will trust where you lead. I will trust when I can't see. see, oh, morning by morning, great is your faithfulness to me. Breath by breath, overtaken by wonder. One step at a time when I'm overwhelmed. Strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Awaken my soul to sing. Awaken my soul to sing. I will trust where you lead. I will trust when I can't see. Oh, morning by morning, great is your faithfulness to me. I will trust with all my heart. You are great, you always are. Oh, morning by morning, great is your faithfulness to me. All fear be reminded, my future is secure. My Father has spoken, he keeps his every word. All fear be reminded, my future is secure. My Father has spoken, he keeps his every word. I will trust you. Oh, morning by morning, oh, morning by morning, I will trust where you lead. I will trust when I can't see. Oh, morning by morning, great is your faithfulness to me. I will trust with all my heart. You are good, you always are. Oh, morning by morning, great is your faithfulness to me.
Beautiful song. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to do a reading, and it's coming from one of my favorite books, 365 Science of Mind. And it happens to be February 8th. I see the divine presence in all others. The Psalms 133, verse 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. The best way to make friends is to realize that we meet life in everyone. The God in us meets the God in others. Proclaiming the divine presence, believing in it, we shall meet it. Love will find a perfect way. Our faith in the divine presence in others will overcome the fear of being misunderstood or hurt. If the mind is calm and serene, there will be less liability toward pain. Therefore, at all times, we should be serene and poised. Confidence and love alone cast out fear. The person without fear is the only truly whole person. It is ours to decide whether we shall live in fear or in faith. Let us decide to live in faith. Let us learn to practice faith until all fear disappears, until life ceases to be a funeral dirge and becomes a song of joy. To find peace in the midst of confusion, we must realize our center in pure spirit. To reach this place of confidence and faith in the midst of doubt and uncertainty, we should consciously unite our thought with the divine mind. I know that God is within me. I know that the Spirit within me is perfect. I enter into its peace and am secure in its protection. The unerring judgment of divine intelligence directs my way. The presence of love uplifts me and lights my life today. Thank you. And now it's time for Peggy to come up here and do her thing.
Thank you. I had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction that I didn't realize until I was almost coming here this morning, that I put on clothing that I didn't have a way to attach the receiver for the headset microphone. So my movements will be a little bit limited, perhaps, if I use this microphone, but I hope you can hear me well. So good morning. It's great to be back here at Wellspring. I'm missing you guys some, and I'm glad that I'm finally getting back into the saddle. I haven't spoken here or at the center downtown now since I guess last spring almost. I think I might have been here right before I left for Mexico in July or June or something like that. But the months just whiz by. I mean, it is February 8th, like you said. It'll be here before we know it, right? Even if it's just figuratively from your reading there, Jim, it's kind of rushing by here. So I had an idea initially about what I wanted to talk about today that came from a class that I've involved in teaching in Spanish. And I kind of changed my mind about it, so I might not have as much of a connection on everything as you might want to hear from me, but it's the way God works, as Sandy said, that I see this morning in the audience the woman who gave me the book that I was originally going to talk about, Nancy Kennedy. So maybe I'll get that talk in December, the end of December when I speak again, because it's more about the kind of thing that looks like your Thursday evening is going to be this next week with kind of going beyond the visible into the invisible and the quantum physics and that kind of beyond limits living and what it takes to get there. But I heard something on the radio. Heard it on the radio yesterday evening, and it just kind of flipped me about what I wanted to talk about. You know, traditionally in November, we're always going to be talking about gratitude. And I had initially decided, I'm not going to do that. But what I heard on the radio changed my thinking about it all. And I see that you're still setting me up for the gratitude talk because your affirmation earlier in the morning for the month is all about being grateful and gratitude. And Jim's opening invocation was grateful, 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 grateful. And, excuse me. So I'm pretty sure that we've been hearing a lot about it already this month. But I think what I have is a little bit of a new element to it, where what I heard on the radio, and when I'm in Albuquerque, I'm not high tech, as you guys probably know. I'm not an electronics whiz at all. And one of the things that I did while I was up there was pick up my truck that's been there the whole summer up with my daughters in my daughter's house. And in that truck, I never have learned to work the radio. And the former owner of it, my son-in-law, never was able to teach me either. So at one point in time, I actually figured out how to get radio on, and I've left it at that. I've never tried to use the CD, never tried to do anything with it. And because I don't really know how to get the channel changed, I don't change the channel. And I listen to KRWG here in Las Cruces, which is 90.7 FM. Well, in Albuquerque, that station happens to be something called K-Love. And it's a nonprofit, Christian-based, faith-based radio station. And I just decided I'm going to listen to it because what do I know, you know? And they had something on last night about gratitude. But it was about the research in the last number of years about the benefits of operating more out of a consciousness of gratitude. I would call it consciousness. That's not what the word that they used, of course. But their presentation about this was just a little blurb about all the research about what living gratefully does for you, physically, mentally, spiritually, all of the above. And after they went through the enumeration of the things that the research has been about, I got all excited because I think for many years I haven't paid much attention to brain research about gratitude. You know, I've been busy looking at other things, I guess, and not really thinking too much about the idea of an attitude of gratitude other than out of my 12-step work. And so I was really excited to hear some of the things they were talking about the research that promises a health and a lifelong process of all the things that Jim talked about in his reading, the calmness, the openness, the fearlessness of being able to live that way. So that's what I'm going to talk about. But first, I want to tell you about my experience of my drive home this morning from Albuquerque. I had already decided that I had to get back to better gratitude practice after listening to this thing on the radio last night and thinking about changing my talk and working on that a little bit after I got home from the state championship football game, which my son-in-law's team lost. So they are not the 5 champions in a row, not 5 championships in a row. They lost to La Cueva. But this morning, I decided, well, I'm getting up, I'm leaving early, you know, I'm not the earliest morning person as a general rule, and I'm not interested in getting too many commitments at that time either, but I decided, well, I'm not going to be, you know, negative about this. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be grateful for the opportunity to do it. And instead of thinking about the fact that I'm going to leave between 5 and 6 a.m. in the morning because I'm driving back this truck that we're not sure is too reliable right now, and I don't want to screw up and not be able to be here on time. So I told myself, well, I get to see the sunrise. I'm grateful for that. I get to see the sunrise. Well, I got a bonus out of the whole thing, as it turned out, and there's almost a full moon. I don't know if anybody else has observed that, but I'm coming down through that little round and through the Isleta area, if you use the no I-25, and the road goes westward at that point out of Albuquerque, and there is the moon hanging in the sky, setting over the western horizon, which I can't really see because it's still kind of dark, but what a gorgeous sight just to come around that curve and go, wow. You know, the wonder that you're talking about in your song there, Danica, about just being willing and able and available to experience the wonder of nature. Then when it came time for the sun to come up, which I had been anticipating that I'm going to get to see the sunrise, well, I'm going south and it's on my left side of the vehicle. So I watched the sun come up over the mountains, and I watched the morning's, you know, rosiness of the dawn, and then the sun is there like, oh, so bright I can't see, and it kept being my movement on the highway and the sun rising higher in the sky, and I was never getting out of that brightness. It seemed like I had this little bitty visor that moves here and there, and I'm putting my arm up and all these kinds of things to try to make shade from it. And I'm thinking about this other thing that I had heard recently that someone had said about what are we waiting for, and when will we choose to be the light that no one can ignore? And I didn't think that really, like, you know, fit into my talk, either one of them, and I was going to do today. But when the sun was like, I cannot ignore this. I have to keep moving this thing. I have to do this. It is so bright that it would cause me to not be able to see the road well. And I'm thinking about it and wanting to share it with you because I thought that's God's sign to me that it doesn't matter if it fit with the rest of the talk. I'm supposed to tell it to you. So I'm just going to say to you, what are we waiting for? And what if we became the light that no one can ignore? This is so much what we need in the world today, right? We need more light. And Sandy, I know, she's going to talk about light next month. when she gives her talk, because it is a season of light, and that's always what we can expect to hear from Reverend Sandy at this time of the year, is to talk about the light. So back to the K-Love Radio announcement about gratitude. So I looked up some of the things that they were talking about in that research that they were sharing, because they were just giving kind of a laundry list. And I'll give you the laundry list and why it motivated me, because I'm reaching an age and a stage where I think I'm more interested in learning how to take care of me first in order to live longer and to have a healthier life. So the research that they talked about said that, you know, practicing gratitude relieves stress, cures depression, eliminates inflammation, heart disease, loneliness. Whoops, I just lost this thing on my screen here. It flipped around on me. Promotes positive attitude that encourages exercise and healthy living. These are all based on different research things, but I'm not going to, you know, bore you with all that. Insomnia and chronic pain. That's just a short list of the things that they were talking about, that the research that's been done in the last 15, 20 years. Now that we're ready to do research on a scientific basis, you know, with the sort of blind studies and everything that only the scientists want to do, right? And they're taking up topics like this, you know, meditation, gratefulness, living in this sort of woo-woo world that the science didn't accept before. But we're now coming into that other thing. So here's what my thought was about all these health elements that it's talking about there. So if Big Pharma could put all that in a pill, you know, and they could cure all of those ails, chronic pain, insomnia, loneliness, heart disease, cancer, inflammation, depression, stress, boy, wouldn't we all be in line around the corner to buy that one? And yet, what the thing that got me so excited in thinking about it is, boy, if I'd really get back to a better attitude of gratitude and a practice, an actual practice that was more involving gratitude. For many years, I trained myself to say, thank you, God, to anything that came into my life, whatever it was. Kind of like the song we sang this morning, that it was a perfect world, irrespective of appearances, right? And it seems like in the last couple of years that I've really fallen away from that kind of instant, because I've got hit with so many things coming in my world, that starting with the pandemic for all of us, we've all had that, and that was a big out of the blue kind of a thing, that the randomness of it and the intensity and the depth of it. By the way, I'm sorry, I just getting over my second bout of COVID. I had it last year at this time, right after Thanksgiving, and I had it this year ahead of Thanksgiving, but I hope never again. And I have just basically started to get over my incessant coughing from the first round. And now I've kind of got it back again with this thing in my throat. Anyway, but because Big Pharma can't patent it, you know, they can't synthesize it, they can't patent it, they can't make it into anything I hope, please God, that would be a drug that would be something that could influence our attitude of gratitude. But what happens when we have gratefulness, and according to most all of these studies that I was reading carefully, quickly last night, is we get the hit of our own chemical drugs in the body that get produced in the humor and the mood change that being grateful shifts us. You know, I think I've always felt that being grateful or gratitude is sort of a replacement feeling. That if I could get from wherever I was, not feeling grateful and not feeling happy or not feeling positive, that if I could get to gratitude and get to love, even if I couldn't quite yet get to acceptance necessarily or get rid of my resistance, that would elevate my frequency, that would get me to a better level of attitude that would hold me in that space better, and life would be better because I would have that perspective. You know, it's all about the perceive, believe, receive kind of thing, that what we believe is what we perceive, and then that's what we receive, because it's a vicious cycle. So if we perceive something as not positive and not something I'm grateful for, and not anything that I was interested in. It wasn't my preference, and I wouldn't have chosen it, and all that kind of stuff. We are holding ourselves back and the universe with us, really, at the energetic level, of not accepting the reality of what is. Whatever it is that's happened, however it is what it is. And the sooner I get there, the better and the happier I know I'm going to be. That doesn't mean that I have the motivation to do it in the moment sometimes, but we're all works in progress, right? So there's 3 chemical, hormonal things that are released in our system when we are feeling grateful and appreciative of ourselves, appreciative of of others, because as we know, what we appreciate appreciates. It's kind of another way of saying what you focus on expands, right? And they're dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Now, I don't know if there's anybody in here that hasn't ever heard of these, but we probably have in our society, in our culture, in our world today, more people seeking the dopamine hit, that instant gratification kind of thing, and that high that doesn't last long. But to have the serotonin with it kind of modulates all of that. And the oxytocin is the hormone that at least I was taught is what we release when we feel that love and that connection, to spirit, to others, that's released when we're oftentimes being touched or embraced or loved on or whatever, and when we do it for others. But when we express and receive gratitude, according to one of the research things I was looking at, our brain releases that dopamine and the serotonin, and the 2 crucial neurotransmitters is what they become. That's what's responsible for the emotion we then feel. That's the messenger that sends that emotion out. So they make us feel good, and they enhance our mood immediately because they're right there in the brain, and making us feel happy from the inside, knowing that that's where the happiness really resides, where we've made a decision to be happy. We're not happy because of external things necessarily. We're happy because of our response to them and our choice about what that response is going to be. But the oxytocin also makes us feel that sense of connection. Sandy always taught me, since she's here, I quote her more today maybe than usual, but I usually quote her always, right, guys? That people long to belong. And the oxytocin is that release that we get when we have that sense of belonging. So all 3 of these are the remedy that creates a certain amount of resilience, and I think we need a lot more of that. I know, in my life, and in our culture, and our society, and in the world today. People are suffering more, I believe, at what's going on in their lives because they have not built up an emotional resilience. And it's easy just to crater down and whatever's, knocked them over. And so these 3 hormones are very essential in our ability to learn to do what the psychologists and psychiatrists call emotional regulation. To be able to get our emotions regulated so that we're not either crazy out there or down in the dumps and can't get out from under the covers kind of thing. So the emotional regulation, particularly in the moment, is a very highly refined whole sort of chemical interaction and brain and cognitive decision all at once. They say that the gratitude feeling has a unique signal in the brain. I did not know this until I was reading these things, that follows a different pathway than many other emotional reactions, and it involves regions in the brain that are very important for processing social information and our emotional regulation. And over time, if we have a gratitude practice, what the research is showing is that this brain circuit that is uniquely tied to the feeling of gratefulness or gratitude really can dampen the impact of negativity or negative emotions or negative thoughts. And so in this way, that the gratitude actually is helping us build that muscle up, you know, that almost that faith muscle that I think we were hearing Danica sing about today, that we have to have that trust and be willing to follow the lead, be willing to follow the guidance. I have a friend who many years ago taught me a little thing to say in the morning, which also I'm kind of out of the habit of. Lead me where you need me, and show me in ways I cannot possibly misunderstand. And I need that last part, because I'm more than happy to rationalize my way out of anything that I don't want to do. Because please God, you know, could you like think that over again? Do you really want me to do that kind of stuff? And I also like, you know, what Marianne Williamson teaches us about and starting the morning off with, you know, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? You know, and to whom? So I want to touch on a few of these elements that I read to you about that are kind of like guaranteed to get better if we get better at being grateful. The de-stressing. Most of you probably have heard or read somewhere that stress is the primary, not necessarily always causation, but definitely involved with all diseases that are seemingly the physical ones that are complaining about being more almost pandemic or endemic themselves, and that harnessing the practice of building this resiliency that protects us rather than allowing the stressors to become the damage to our cells, that we want our cells, you know, swimming in this goodness, not in the negativity or the resistance, but those consequences of life stressors, we can turn those around according to the research with the attitude of gratitude if we have a practice. I think the research was 60 days that they were you know, watching their subjects and following their patterns and seeing the differences in their brain waves and what things were going on in their chemical reactions in their body. So the chronic stress that promotes inflammation, so if you help get rid of the stress, then that brings the inflammation down and also creates the cardiovascular problems. The inflammation is directly connected to cardiovascular issue, heart disease, things like that. But the research shows that individuals with a strong disposition, to me, that's almost like consciousness. We have a strong consciousness towards gratitude. We're found to show lower instances of inflammation in the context of socioeconomic stress. That's what they were testing them under. They were watching people who were under financial or socioeconomic kind of stressors. Excuse me, while individuals that had heart disease that cultivated gratitude showed less inflammation and better vascular function. Again, these are over time. They're not like overnight. You're not going to get, this is a silver bullet maybe, but it's not going to be, it's going to be more like buckshot, you know. You're going to get it a little bit at a time and keep it going. And gratitude may dampen this whole negative attitude. When I was first at the, what do we call it then, the First Church of Religious Science, downtown, there were people there that I was meeting for the first time because I hadn't known them before. Kind of like you, Danica, you didn't have that community until somebody got you through the door. And at one point in time, when I finally got through some of my classes and I was serving on the board, and there was a guy there named Roger, who was a practitioner ahead of me and was also, Shirley remembers him. And in our interactions in the 12-step world, I would always remember what he would say about that he needed to get grateful because he was down in the bowels of the belly of the weevil or whatever. You know, this kind of like he couldn't get any lower than low. And that was his expression or his metaphor for expressing that. But one of the other things that I would hear him say that I took upon, you know, in my own integration of the principles of 12 steps. You can't be grateful and hateful at the same time. And that energy of hate is what we want to dissipate in ourselves and others, and be the light, be the light that's so bright no one can ignore it. So I encourage myself to think about that, and to think about, okay, well, what would be the way to turn that around and stay grateful, but also figure out some way to kind of get to some place of acceptance of being grateful for what I'm hateful about. And could I, kind of unpack that somehow, that I could find pieces and parts of whatever it is I think I don't want to accept, and I don't want to, that's another word for hate is fear or lack of acceptance, or, however you want to characterize it. But it comes from fear, usually fear of the other, fear of the unknown, fear of not being in control, that the things we hate are the things we don't understand, and we don't understand because it's an unknown, But the effects of stress that come from that, and that come from being unhappy or hateful or disgusted about something or frustrated, any of those kinds of energies is adding to the stress. And so the way that they were testing things for insomnia was looking at older people, actually, and showing that the condition was strongest and evidenced in benefit for them to have a gratitude practice in the evening and in the morning. And of course, these things go back to keeping gratitude journals. There's not anybody in the room that hasn't heard that term, I'm sure, about keeping a gratitude journal, and then holding on to it so that if you feel ungrateful at some point, you got stuff written down. You can actually look and say, here's your evidence of what you were grateful for, and try to turn that around as quickly as you can. But the function in sleep is so important too in our brain function. So all of these things coming together are just like, wow, if I could get all that and for free, and I just have to do a little bit of work to have it happen. And part of the research that I was looking at too was that we have to be sincerely grateful. They did research to see, well, the person that says, well, tell your grandma thank you for that, that's not gratitude. Or that somebody says you should be grateful for this, or you should have done that, or whatever. You have to have it come from within. So part of that is the work that we all have to do. Because sometimes, I don't think I'm the only one in here, I'm not ready. I'm not ready right away to get grateful. Even if I've said, thank you, God, I'm waiting for the pony at the bottom of the pile of shit. When I say that, because I'm certain it's going to be there, because that faithfulness and trust that Danica's song talked about, I believe that. But in the moment, it don't feel like it, And even if I said, thank you, God, because I just stubbed my toe or something, I'm always needing to take it to the level where, okay, am I really grateful, or am I just parroting this because this is, the way I've done it? Not that the mantra doesn't help, because for me, saying those kinds of things, kind of mantra-like, is enough to displace some other thought that might have tried to come in. Again, like the gratitude being a replacement emotion. So this relationship with ourselves and the natural world, and all that gratitude and awe and wonder, just focus on cultivating what we value, is what one of the research articles talked about. By focusing on what you value, then you'll be spending more of your time with what it is that you value, and that makes you happy and makes you grateful, and you're happy to be doing or being a part of whatever it is you have value of, even if it's, looking at the moon last night, and being able to have an awe and a wonder and a humility that comes with that. From cultivating that gratitude, I have to get there even if I'm resisting it. And that's, I think I've shared with you all more than once, that I believe is one of my greater character defects, is the resistance is not easily dissipated in my world a lot of times. So, I'm busy pushing the wall back like I thought I could move it or something. But getting that level of gratitude and finding a practice that suits you, focusing on your values, being willing to open your heart and just be grateful for everything, no matter what the appearances are, can oftentimes, I think, lead us to be able to, we can kind of skip the forgiveness practice. Because if we're grateful for something to begin with, and a person or a place or a situation, if we can find some gratitude for it, we don't have to work on forgiving it. So at the end of it all, I decided that really this goes back to what I learned from, I've forgotten his name now, one of the doctors in The Secret movie, that what we think about and think about is what really brings about a change in our life. So that to me, it turns out that that's really the focus of this whole idea of the gratitude process. And the more that we are thinking about what we are thinking about, that holds our consciousness of thought, so that I think is what Ernest calls the predominant atmosphere of our thinking, that if we're thinking about our thinking, we can hardly go anywhere else. And that's got to bring us into the level of being able to take advantage of this panacea that scientific research is showing us is going to make us healthy, happy, whole, free, unstressed, all of that. But I have one that I wanted to share with you that I ran across a few years ago that I thought was pretty good. It's called Morning Magic, and I think it's online, that you can actually Google that and go and participate. But it involves meditation, four affirmations in the mirror. Now, you remember the way I teach the affirmations, you have to craft those in the 4 Ps: personal, powerful, positive, and present tense. Gratitude list, a different thing every day that you're grateful for. Setting intention in the positive for your day. And making a commitment in the positive for the day. Like in my world, maybe it's eat more veggies or something like that, you know. And I don't know how I had this with that other morning magic thing, but I thought I'm going to leave it in here anyway, because I don't think it's part of what they have on that website that talks to you about doing that practice, morning magic. But I have written here that on the idea of being in the ditch, that I needed to always hold in my consciousness that we're always on a path, and whatever that path is, we have to remember that it's only inches from the ditch either way. If you're in the ditch, it's only inches to back on the path. And if you're on the path, it's only inches to fall down at the slippery slope of the ditch. And so these are things that, speak to me, that I wanted to share with you this morning. And if we could just all either, stand or sitting or whatever, you just say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, am I supposed to do the spiritual mind treatment now? Or do we have something else first?
No, you do the affirmative prayer,
Okay.
and then you're done.
Okay, so I guess I could look at this. I see it's up here. I didn't pick up anything when I came in. Message, affirmative prayer. Okay. So I think Jim started us off well with his prayer of gratitude at the beginning, that we're grateful, 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 grateful. So we just breathe that in, see ourselves into that future, into the future self that is practicing the gratitude, that's feeling that connectedness with the oneness of spirit and the oneness of who we are, how we are, and whose we are. And let that sink in. Bring that gratitude up. And think of the one thing for today that you're grateful for. Doesn't have to be a thing, a person, situation. Yourself being here in the chair. Be grateful to you who brought you here today. And I'm declaring and affirming for all of us that we revisit the idea of having more dialed in a gratitude practice on a daily basis that will uplift us, set us on that path, keep us out of the ditch, hold us in spirit, in the trust of being led through the day through that intention. And we see ourselves writing these things down or putting together a little book, sticking it in my phone with an alarm that goes off every few hours to remind me. Any of the technology is out there to use to help us with this too. And that gratitude list will grow and grow and grow, especially if we're challenged not to have the same thing over and over again. And to be grateful in our hearts for even the smallest thing, because there is no order of magnitude truly in the universe and in the spiritual perspective. There is no order of magnitude of what we experience in our day. It all counts. And I want to be counted in to what's happening in the day. And I hold that affirmation for you as well. That we're present. We're not in the past. We're not in the future. We're available to the present moment. We've practiced our gratitude for everything that's happened in the past. And we open ourselves up in the morning to every day with something like, thank you, God, for the blessings I'm about to receive. That holds our future secure, like Danica's song. It's been spoken. It is the Father's word through us, to us, as us. And we're so grateful for all of that, for the philosophy that teaches us these tools, that allows us to learn and to live a spiritual life every day, not just Sunday or someday, but right here, right now, on this holy ground where we sit or stand. Our gratitude is overflowing. We are in a richness of abundance of all God's good. And I just let these words released into the law of love, knowing that as they are spoken, they are realized. And so it is. Amen.
So this song is called Stand in the Light by Jordan Smith. Stand in the light and be seen as we are. Didn't I tell you I hear what you say? Never look back as we're walking away. Carry the music, the memories, and keep them inside you. Laugh every day. Don't stop those tears from falling down. This is who I am inside. This is who I am. I'm not going to hide, 'cause the greatest risk we'll ever take is by far to stand in the light and be seen as we are. To stand in the light and be seen as we are. With courage your faith. You get what you give, and it's never too late to reach for the branch and climb up, leaving sadness behind. You fight hard for love. We can never give enough. This is who I am inside. This is who I am. I'm not going to hide. For the greatest risk we'll ever take is by far to stand in the light and be seen as we are. To stand in the light and be seen as we are. Riding the storms that come raging toward us as we dive. Holding our breath as we break through the surface with arms open wide. With arms open wide. This is who I am inside. This is who I am. I'm not going to hide. For the greatest risk we'll ever take is by far to stand in the light and be seen as we are. To stand in the light and be seen as we are. Oh, for the greatest risk we'll ever take is by far to stand in the light and be seen as we are. To stand in the light and be seen as we are. To stand in the light and be seen as we are.
And now it's time for our offering. Judy's coming up. As we acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of the one flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know that they are multiplied throughout our community. Thank you. I just wanted to put a little plug in for Mr. Dean Lively. He, over the years, has made a lot of Christmas tree ornaments, you know, with needlepoint and whatever. And he decided this would be a good year to share some of those. So they're available for anyone to take. There's some over there in the social hall. So check it out. There are a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service. We are grateful for this service. Barry, as always, and Danica. Thank you, Brenda and Edwin and Judy and, and of course, Peggy. We thank you for joining us today in Zoom land and here in the sanctuary. And lastly, stay around in the Zoom meeting after service to visit if you like, or join us in the social hall. Please stand as you are able and read with me the benediction, followed by our congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world. And so it is.